Lawyer caught his pregnant wife crying alone. The reason left him speechless. Marcus Miller was used to long days at the law firm, but that Thursday he decided to leave early to surprise his wife, Elena. At 7 months pregnant, she had been showing a tiredness he attributed to the pregnancy, but something in her recent behavior made him uneasy. As he quietly opened the door, Marcus heard muffled crying coming from the small home office they shared. Elena was there, sitting in the leather chair holding a faded photograph he had never seen before. When she noticed his presence, she quickly hid the image among the papers and ran her hands over her face, trying to hide the tears. "Hey, honey, you're home early," she said, forcing a smile. Marcus approached slowly, watching his wife's red eyes. During their 5 years of marriage, he had learned to read her expressions, and this wasn't just the hormonal crying of pregnancy. It was something deeper, more painful. "Ellie, what happened? I saw you crying." "It was nothing, just pregnancy stuff, you know how it is." He wasn't convinced. Elena had always been transparent with him, sharing her joys and worries without hesitation. That evasiveness was completely out of character. "What photo was that you were holding?" "What photo?" she asked, but her defensive tone only confirmed Marcus's suspicions. "Ellie, we've been married for 5 years. I know when something is really bothering you." She took a deep breath, running her hand over her rounded belly. The baby moved, as if sensing the mother's tension. "Let's talk about this later, okay? Now's not the time." Marcus wanted to insist, but he knew Elena well enough to know that pushing her wouldn't work. She always needed time to organize her thoughts before opening up. In the following days, Elena's behavior grew even stranger. She started leaving the house without detailed explanations, just saying she had things to take care of. When Marcus asked about the baby, or tried to talk about the nursery preparations, she quickly changed the subject. "Did you schedule the appointment with Dr. Lucas?" he asked during breakfast on Tuesday. "Yes, I did. It's on Friday," she replied, absently stirring her cereal. "Do you want me to come along? I can cancel the 2 o'clock hearing." "No need, Marcus. I know you're busy with work." That answer deeply unsettled him. Eleanor had always insisted he attend the prenatal appointments. It was a special moment for both of them, a break from the daily rush to connect with their future child. On Wednesday, Marcus decided to leave early again, but this time Elena wasn't home. He called her cell phone, but it went straight to voicemail. 2 hours later, she arrived with a heavy expression, as if she was carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders. "Where were you, Ellie?" "I had to take care of some pending matters." "What matters? At 7 months pregnant, you should be resting." "Marcus, please. I don't want to argue right now." She went upstairs to the bedroom, leaving him alone in the living room, with a growing feeling that his wife was dealing with something much bigger than she was willing to share. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to hit like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing, on Thursday Marcus made a decision he never thought he'd make. He followed his own wife. When she left the house around 2 in the afternoon, he waited a few minutes and went after her, keeping a safe distance. Elena took 2 buses until she reached a neighborhood Marcus recognized as Williamsburg, but in a simpler area, far from the famous cafes and galleries of the region. She walked through narrow streets until she stopped in front of a small, well-kept house with a garden full of flowers out front. Marcus parked the car a few houses down and watched, feeling both guilty for spying on his wife and worried about what he might discover. An elderly woman with grey hair opened the door. She must have been around 70, wearing a simple floral dress, and had tears in her eyes the moment she saw Elena. The two hugged for a long time, and Marcus could see that both were crying. They went inside the house, where they stayed for almost 2 hours. Marcus remained in the car, fighting the urge to knock on the door and demand an explanation. When Elena finally came out, her eyes were red again, but there was something different in her posture, a mix of relief and pain that he couldn't decipher. That night, Marcus tried to broach the subject gently. "Ellie, we need to talk." "About what?" "About what's going on with you, about these mysterious outings, about that photo, about the way you've been avoiding talking about our baby." Elena got up from the bed where they were lying and went to the window. The moonlight illuminated her profile, highlighting the tears that began to fall again. "You won't understand, Marcus. Try to explain it to me. We're a couple. We should face things together. It's not that simple. Then help me understand. Because the way things are, it seems like you're carrying an enormous weight all by yourself, and that can't be good for you or our son." Elena turned to him, and Marcus saw in her eyes a vulnerability he hadn't seen in years. It was as if she were fighting an internal battle, deciding between revealing or continuing to keep the secret. "The lady you saw today," she began hesitantly. Marcus was taken aback. "How do you know I saw her?" "Because I saw you in the car. Did you really think I wouldn't notice my own husband following me?" He felt embarrassed, but at the same time relieved that she had opened the conversation. "I'm sorry, Ellie. I was desperate. You've been so distant, so different. I didn't know what else to do." She came back to the bed and sat down beside him, taking a deep breath before continuing. "That lady, her name is Martha, and she's—" Eleanor paused for a long moment. "She's my mother." Marcus was silent for a few seconds, processing the information. "Your mother? But Ellie, you always told me your parents died when I was a baby, I know. That's what I believed my whole life. But it's not true." The tears started falling down Eleanor's face again, and she continued. 3 weeks ago, I got a call at the office. It was an older woman, a bit hesitant, saying she needed to talk to me about something very important. At first I thought it was some kind of scam, you know how it is, but something in her voice made me agree to meet her. Marcus took Elena's hand, encouraging her to go on. "It was Martha. She told me that she gave birth to me 28 years ago, but she was forced to give me up for adoption." "Forced by who?" "By her parents, by the family. She was only 16 when she got pregnant. The father of the child, my biological father, was older and married. His family had influence in the town where she lived, in rural Kentucky. When they found out about the pregnancy, they threatened to ruin her entire family's life if she didn't give the baby up for adoption." Marcus felt as if the ground was shifting beneath his feet. The woman he had been married to for 5 years had a completely different story from the one he knew. "Ellie, why did you never suspect? Never try to find out about your biological parents?" "I did try. When I turned 18, I attempted to access the adoption records, but they told me my biological mother had left a letter saying she didn't want any contact, that I should move on with my life without looking for her." "But wasn't that the truth?" "No, Martha showed me documents. She never signed anything saying she didn't want contact. In fact, she spent years trying to find me, but the adoption process was set up in a way that made any reunion difficult." Marcus got up from the bed and started pacing around the room, trying to make sense of all these new facts. "So, the photo you were holding, it was a picture of me as a baby. The only one she managed to take before they handed me over to the family that adopted me." Eleanor's voice broke on that last sentence, and Marcus sat back down beside her, pulling her into a hug. "Why didn't you tell me before, honey?" "Because I'm pregnant, Marcus. I'm expecting our first child, and suddenly I find out I have a living mother who has suffered all these years thinking I didn't want to meet her. How am I supposed to process all this?" Marcus began to understand his wife's anguish. Elena had always been very sensitive, especially when it came to family matters. The prospect of motherhood was already stirring up her emotions, and discovering such a shocking truth about her own origins must have been devastating. "And how did she find you?" "Through your sister." Marcus froze. "Through Chloe?" "Yes. Apparently Chloe knew about the story for a long time, and she was the one who located Martha." "What do you mean Chloe knew? Since when?" "According to Martha, for at least 2 years. Marcus felt anger building inside him. His younger sister had always been complicated, but hiding information like this was something he couldn't comprehend. "Why would Chloe do that? Why didn't she tell me?" Elena hesitated before answering, as if she knew the next revelation would be even more painful. "Because she didn't do it to help me, Marcus. She did it to hurt me." "What do you mean?" "Chloe found me first. 2 years ago she came to me saying she had discovered information about my biological family. She said she had found my mother, but that she didn't want contact with me. That she had even asked that I never know she was alive. Marcus felt the anger turning into something much bigger, much deeper. Chloe lied to you? Yes. And she also lied to Martha. She told her that I had a perfect life and didn't want to be bothered by stories from the past. That it would be better for her to forget me for good. My God, Ellie, why would she do something like that? Eleanor stood up again and went to the dresser, where she opened a drawer and pulled out a yellowed envelope. According to Martha, Chloe said she did it because she was always jealous of our marriage, of our life together. Marcus took the envelope from Elena's hands and saw that it contained several old photos and some documents. She admitted that to Martha. Not exactly, but Martha noticed there was something strange about her attitude, the way she talked about me, as if she were angry, as if I had something that belonged to her. Marcus flipped through the photos. There were some of Elena as a baby, others of a young Martha, and one that made him stop completely. It was a picture of Chloe talking to Martha, apparently taken secretly. Where did this photo come from? Martha had a suspicious neighbor who thought it was odd for a young woman from the big city to show up asking questions about children given up for adoption. She took the photo and kept it in case she needed it in the future. Marcus couldn't believe what he was seeing. His own sister had deliberately kept a mother separated from her daughter for 2 whole years. Ellie, this is too cruel, even for Chloe. I know. And the worst part is that Martha spent those 2 years believing that I really didn't want to meet her. She told me that several times she thought about giving up on everything. And how did you finally find each other? Martha had been hospitalized for a month. Nothing serious, but she became very weak and started to think she might pass away without ever having had the chance to truly know me. That's when she decided to make one last attempt and called me directly at the office. Marcus sat heavily on the bed. With every new piece of information, he felt like he was meeting a completely different version of the people he thought he knew. Marcus, there's one more thing. He looked at her, unsure if he was ready for more revelations. Martha is sick. It's not something that will take her away from us anytime soon, but she has a heart condition that might be hereditary. Did you get tested? I did, and our baby might have inherited the condition too. Marcus felt like he'd been punched in the gut. Now he fully understood why Elena had been carrying so much weight on her own. The results? They'll be here next week. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, go ahead and hit like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us newcomers. Now back to the story. Marcus pulled Elena into another hug, this time longer and tighter. Why didn't you tell me all this before, love? We've always faced everything together. Because I was afraid, Marcus. Afraid of how you'd react when you found out I'm not who you thought I was. Afraid you'd doubt me for hiding it. And mostly afraid that our baby might have health problems because of me. Ellie, none of that changes who you are. You're still the woman I fell in love with, the mother of my child. And if the baby does have any condition, we'll face it together, just like we've always handled everything in our lives. They stayed embraced for a long time, until Marcus broke the silence. I need to talk to Chloe. Marcus, no. Ellie, she kept you apart from your mother for 2 years. 2 years you could have spent getting to know each other, connecting. That can't just be brushed aside. I know you're angry, and you have every right to be. But right now, I just want to focus on getting to know Martha, on enjoying this time with her, and on taking care of our family. Marcus took a deep breath. Eleanor was right, but the anger he felt toward her sister was almost unbearable. Okay, but I want to meet Martha. I want her to know you're not alone in any of this. You'd do that? Of course I would. She's your mom, Ellie, and our son is going to have one more grandmother to love him. On Friday, Marcus cancelled all his appointments and went with Elena to visit Martha. The house in Williamsburg was simple but cozy, full of plants and with a cinnamon aroma coming from the kitchen. Martha greeted Marcus with a mix of nervousness and hope. She was an elegant woman despite her simplicity, and her eyes held the same sweet expression Marcus loved in Elena. Nice to meet you, Marcus. Elena has told me so much about you. The pleasure is mine, Mrs. Martha. I'm sorry this whole situation has been so complicated. It's not your fault, son. Sometimes life plays tricks on us that take years to understand. During lunch, Martha shared more details about Elena's childhood and the years she spent searching for her daughter. Marcus could see she was a strong woman who had worked hard to support herself and had never given up hope of finding her daughter again. Mrs. Martha, you mentioned you have a heart condition. I do, Marcus. Dilated cardiomyopathy. It's a condition that can be passed from mother to daughter, but not always. Has Elena had the tests done? She has. We're waiting for the results. I've prayed so much that she wouldn't inherit this from me. I already feel guilty for so much she went through because of me. Elena held her mother's hand. Mom, none of what happened was your fault. You were a teenager who had no choice, sir. Marcus observed the interaction between the two and felt a deep emotion. It was beautiful to see Elena finally having a chance to have a mother, but at the same time painful to think about all the years they had lost. On Sunday, Marcus decided he couldn't put off the conversation with Chloe any longer. He invited her to lunch, without telling Elena exactly what he intended to discuss. Chloe arrived at the restaurant with her always confident demeanor, dressed impeccably as usual. At 32, she worked as a marketing manager at Sterling Global Dynamics and had always made a point of showing she had a successful life. Hey bro, good to see you. How's Elena? She's almost in the home stretch, right? Marcus watched her for a few seconds before answering. How could she act so naturally, knowing everything she had done? Chloe, I need to talk to you about something serious. Sure, go ahead. I know about Martha. Chloe's face changed immediately. Confidence gave way to barely concealed nervousness. Martha, I don't know who you're talking about. Don't play dumb, Chloe. I know you knew Elena's biological mother 2 years ago and kept it from us. Chloe lowered her gaze, nervously fidgeting with her napkin. Marcus. Chloe, how could you do that? You kept a mother separated from her daughter for 2 years. Do you have any idea how cruel that is? It wasn't supposed to be like this. How wasn't it supposed to be like this? You lied to Martha, saying Elena didn't want to meet her, and you lied to Elena, saying Martha didn't want contact. How was that not meant to be cruel? Chloe started to cry, but Marcus didn't let himself be moved. He knew his sister well enough to know she used tears as a strategy when she felt cornered. Tell me the truth, Chloe, why did you do this? Because I was jealous, okay? Because you two always seemed to have a perfect life and I always felt left out. Left out how? You were always included in everything in our family. It's not about that, Marcus. It's about... She hesitated. It's about the fact that I was in love with Elena's boyfriend before you two got married. Marcus fell silent, processing yet another shocking revelation. You were in love with Justin? Yes, and when you two broke up and she started dating you, I got resentful, because I thought I'd finally have a chance with him, but then he decided he didn't want anyone for a while. Marcus shook his head in disbelief. Chloe, that was over 6 years ago. You held on to that resentment all this time? I know it's immature, I know it's ridiculous, but when I found out about Elena's story, I thought that maybe if she knew the truth about her family, you two would go through some kind of crisis that would split you apart. You wanted to split us up? I wanted you to see that your life wasn't so perfect, that everyone has secrets, has complicated things in their past. Marcus stood up from the table, feeling disgusted by his sister's attitude. Chloe, you caused immeasurable pain to 2 people who had nothing to do with your personal frustrations. Martha spent 2 years thinking her daughter didn't want to meet her. Elena spent her whole life not knowing she had a living mother who loved her. I know, Marcus, and I regret it. Regret isn't enough, Chloe. You need to understand the gravity of what you did and do something to make it right. What do you want me to do? Marcus sat back down, staring intently at his sister. First, you're going to apologize to Elena and Martha in person. Second, you're going to seek professional help to deal with these issues of jealousy and resentment. And third, you're going to take some time away from our family until you can sort all this out in your head. Marcus, you're my brother, and that's exactly why I'm saying this. Because I love you, but I can't accept you continuing to hurt the people I love because of your unresolved issues. Chloe cried a bit more but agreed to Marcus's conditions. It was clear she understood the gravity of the situation. On the way back home, Marcus called Elena to tell her about the conversation. She listened to everything in silence, and at the end just said, "Thank you for talking to her. I wouldn't have had the courage." On Monday, Eleanor's test results came in. Marcus had to leave an important meeting when she called, crying. "Marcus, can you come home? The results are here." "Of course, love. I'm on my way." He drove as fast as he could, imagining the worst scenarios. When he got home, he found Elena in the living room, sitting on the couch with an envelope in her hands. "Ellie, what does it say?" She looked at him with tears in her eyes, but this time there was a smile on her face. "I don't have the condition, Marcus, and neither does the baby." Marcus pulled her into a tight hug, feeling an immense relief wash over his body. "Thank God, love. Thank God. Now we can focus only on the good things, right? On getting to know Martha better, on preparing for our son's arrival, on being a complete family." That night, they called Martha to give her the good news. Her happiness was contagious, and Marcus could feel how that family was finally truly connecting. On Wednesday, Chloe showed up at their house asking to talk to Eleanor. Marcus was apprehensive, but Eleanor said she wanted to hear what her sister-in-law had to say. "Elena, I came to apologize, from the bottom of my heart. Chloe, what you did was very serious. I know, and I have no excuse. I acted out of jealousy, envy, immaturity. I separated you from your mother for completely selfish reasons, and that's unforgivable." Elena listened in silence, watching her sister-in-law closely. "Do you realize the suffering you caused? Not just for me, but for Martha too." "I do, and that's why I'm here. I want to do whatever I can to fix this." "What's done can't be undone, Chloe. Those 2 years we lost aren't coming back." "I know, but I can try to make up for it somehow. I can help you guys with anything you need. I can be the best aunt this baby could have. I can—" "Chloe," Elena interrupted her, "the only thing I want from you is for you to get help, to see a psychologist and work through these issues that led you to do this. I already made an appointment with a therapist. I start next week. And I want you to apologize to Martha too, in person. Of course, whenever you want, I'll go." Marcus watched the conversation, impressed by Elena's maturity. Even after all the suffering caused by her sister-in-law, she was managing to stay focused on what really mattered: healing and forgiveness. On Saturday, they organized a meeting at Martha's house so Chloe could apologize in person. It was a tense but necessary moment. Martha listened to Chloe's apology with the serenity of someone who had already suffered a lot in life and had learned to value peace. "Honey, I accept your apology. Not because what you did wasn't serious, but because I choose not to carry bitterness in my heart. Life has already taught me that holding a grudge only hurts ourselves." After the conversation, Martha prepared lunch for everyone. It was the first time the whole family was together, and Marcus could see how that meeting, despite having started with pain, was turning into something healing. During lunch, Martha told more stories about Elena's youth, showing pictures she had saved over the years. Marcus realized that his mother-in-law had spent decades building an image of her daughter in her mind, imagining what she would be like, how she would have grown up. "Mrs. Martha, do you have any other children?" asked Marcus. "No, Marcus. After I gave up Elena, I was never able to get pregnant again. The doctors said it was a condition that developed after childbirth, probably due to emotional stress." Elena held her mother's hand, understanding even more the extent of the sacrifice she had made. "So this baby will be your first grandchild?" "Yes, he will. And I promise I'll be the best grandmother in the world. I'll give all the love I couldn't give to Elena." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, feel free to hit like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us beginners. Now continuing. In the following weeks, Mrs. Martha became a constant presence in Marcus and Elena's lives. She helped with the nursery preparations, shared recipes for foods that eased morning sickness, and most of all, offered the emotional support Elena so needed in this final stretch of the pregnancy. Marcus watched with admiration as his wife blossomed with her mother's presence. It was as if a part of her that had always been missing had finally clicked into place. One day, while they were organizing the baby's clothes, Mrs. Martha made a revelation that surprised them both. "Elena, I need to tell you something about your father." Marcus and Elena stopped what they were doing and paid attention. "I never talked about him because I thought it was for the best, but now that you're having a child, I think it's important you know." "What about him, Mom?" "He didn't die like I let you believe. Actually, he's been living here in New York City for many years." Marcus felt a knot in his stomach. Another family revelation that would change everything again. "What do you mean, Mom?" "When I gave you up for adoption, he was married and had a family. But a few years later, he got divorced and came looking for me in rural Kentucky. He said he'd never forgotten me or you." "And what happened?" "I was really angry with him back then. After all, he could have helped me when I needed it, but he chose to protect his own reputation. So I told him I didn't want anything to do with him or the daughter we had together." Elena sat down heavily on the bed, processing yet another shocking piece of information. "But Mom, if he wanted to reach out again—" "I know, sweetie. It was my mistake. I was hurt, angry at life, and I ended up cutting off any chance for you two to meet." "Does he know you found me?" "No, he doesn't. We haven't spoken in over 20 years. Marcus moved closer to Elena, who was visibly shaken by the news. "Ellie, do you want to meet him?" I don't know. It's a lot at once, Marcus. First finding out I had a living mother, now knowing I have a father too." Mrs. Martha approached her daughter and held her hands. "Sweetie, I understand if you don't want to meet him. I understand if you're angry with me for hiding this too. But I thought you had the right to know. Mum, what's his name?" "Thomas Henderson. He's an orthopedic surgeon and works at a hospital here in the Upper East Side." Marcus felt a strange familiarity with the name, but couldn't place where he'd heard it. That night, Marcus and Elena talked at length about the possibility of her meeting her father. "Marcus, do you think I should look him up?" "Honey, I think that's a decision only you can make. But if you decide you want to meet him, I'll be by your side, as always. I'm afraid of more disappointments, more secrets, more complications." "I understand. But it could also be a good thing. Maybe he's a nice person who really regretted his past mistakes. What if he doesn't want to meet me? Then we'll deal with it together, but at least you'll know you tried." A few days later, Eleanor decided she wanted to give it a try. Marcus helped her find information about Thomas Henderson, and they discovered that he really worked as an orthopedist at a renowned hospital in the Upper East Side. "Ellie, do you want me to try to contact him first? As a lawyer, I can approach the situation in a more formal, less impactful way. Would you do that for me?" "Of course I would." Marcus called the hospital and managed to speak with Dr. Thomas's secretary. He explained that he needed to talk to him about a very important personal matter, and they scheduled a meeting for late afternoon that Friday. Dr. Thomas's office was in an elegant building in the financial district. Marcus arrived a few minutes before the scheduled time, feeling nervous about dealing with such a delicate situation. Dr. Thomas was a man in his 60s, with grey hair and an elegant posture. There was something in his features that vaguely reminded him of Elena, especially the shape of his eyes. "Dr. Thomas, thank you for seeing me. I know you must be curious about the reason for our meeting." "I am indeed. Your phone call was quite mysterious." Marcus took a deep breath before starting. "Doctor, did you meet a young woman named Martha Miller about 30 years ago in rural Kentucky?" The doctor's face changed immediately, an expression of surprise mixed with something that seemed like nostalgia. "Martha? Yes, I did. Why are you asking about her?" "Because she is the mother of my wife." Dr. Thomas leaned back in his chair, clearly impacted by the information. "Your wife is Martha's daughter?" "Yes, she is, and apparently also your daughter." The doctor was silent for a few seconds, processing the information. Then he stood up and went to the window, watching the street traffic below. "How is Martha? After all these years?" "She's fine, Doctor. She's lived here in New York City for some time." "And you came to me because my wife would like to meet you if you're willing, Doctor." Thomas sat back down and Marcus could see tears forming in his eyes. "I dreamed of this moment for decades, But after so long, I thought it would never happen. Would you like to meet your daughter? More than anything in the world. But does she know about me? Does she know the whole story? Yes, she does. Martha told her about you two, about the circumstances back then. And she doesn't hate me? Marcus smiled for the first time since he'd arrived at the office. Dr. Thomas, my wife is one of the most understanding people I know. She understands that you were both very young in a very different time, and most importantly, she's pregnant with our first child. I think the prospect of motherhood made her want to know her own roots. She's pregnant. I'm going to be a grandfather. You are. It's a boy. Dr. Thomas cried openly, and Marcus felt a deep emotion seeing the reaction of that man who had carried guilt and longing for 3 decades. When can I meet her? Whenever you want. But if you'll allow me a suggestion, maybe it's best to start with a phone conversation to break the ice. Of course, of course. You're right. Marcus left the office with Dr. Thomas's personal cell phone number and the promise that he would call Elena over the weekend. When he got home, Marcus found Elena and Martha in the kitchen, making cookies for afternoon tea. So, love, how did it go? It was really good, Ellie. He was emotional to learn about you. And when he found out you're pregnant, did he cry? Asked Martha, who had stopped mixing the cookie dough. He did. It's clear he never forgot either of you. Eleanor approached Marcus looking for a hug. Does he want to meet me? More than anything, he said he dreamed of this moment for decades. How does he look, physically? Asked Martha, trying to hide her curiosity. He looks good. He's an elegant man, seems really successful professionally. And Ellie, he has some physical features similar to yours. On Saturday afternoon, the phone rang. It was Dr. Thomas, nervous but determined to talk to his daughter. Hello, Eleanor? Hi, Dad. Marcus watched Eleanor during the call, which lasted nearly 2 hours. He could see a range of emotions crossing his wife's face: nervousness, curiosity, excitement, relief. When she hung up, she was crying, but they were tears of happiness. How was it, love? It was beautiful, Marcus. He told me about his life all these years, about how he always thought of me, and he apologized 1,000 times for not having had the courage to stand up to his family back then. And are you two going to meet? We are. Tomorrow, at Mum's place. He wants to meet her too after all these years. The reunion between Martha and Thomas was moving to witness. Despite all the years that had passed, it was clear there was still a special connection between them. Not necessarily romantic, but a connection between two people who had shared a very important moment in life and carried the consequences together, even if apart. Martha, you look beautiful. Time has been kind to you. Thank you, Thomas. You look good too. I'm so sorry for everything you went through alone, for having to give up our daughter, for suffering all these years without support. The past is the past, Thomas. The important thing is that now we can be a family, even if in a different way. During lunch, Thomas talked about his life. He had married young due to family pressure, had 2 children from the marriage, but had divorced when the kids were already adults. He had never remarried. I always knew a part of me was left behind in that small town in rural Kentucky, and now I understand that part was the 2 of you. Elena was radiant seeing her parents together again. Marcus watched everything with a feeling that finally the pieces of life were falling into place. Dad, do you have other children? I do, sweetheart. You have 2 half-siblings, Ethan, who is a doctor like me, and Olivia, who is a teacher. They live in other cities, but they'd love to meet you. And do they know about me? They do. I never hid from anyone that I had a daughter who was given up for adoption. When they grew up, I explained the whole situation. Marcus was impressed by Dr. Thomas's honesty. It was clear that he had carried the weight of the situation very differently from how Martha had carried it. The following weeks were filled with a happiness Marcus had never seen in his wife. Eleanor was blossoming with her parents' presence, and the baby's arrival was being prepared with so much love by a family that had found each other after decades apart. Thomas made a point of accompanying the prenatal appointments, using his medical expertise to reassure Eleanor about any concerns. Martha was knitting and crocheting non-stop, creating beautiful pieces for the grandson who was on the way. One day during a dinner at Marcus and Elena's place, Thomas made a comment that touched everyone present deeply. "You know, when I was young, I thought life had forced me to make a terrible choice, my birth family or the two of you. Today I realize it wasn't a choice, I was just a coward. If I had had the courage back then, we could have been a family a long time ago." Thomas and Martha said, "We can't change the past, but we can make the present and the future different." Marcus admired the wisdom of his in-laws. Both had been through so much suffering, but they had reached an emotional maturity that allowed for forgiveness and a fresh start. At 37 weeks into the pregnancy, Eleanor went into labor during a visit to Martha's place. It was a scare for everyone, but Thomas took control of the situation with the calm of someone who had dealt with emergencies his whole life. "Easy, honey. Everything's normal." The baby just decided to arrive a little earlier than expected. Marcus drove like he had never driven before all the way to Crestview Medical Center, with Thomas in the back seat, guiding Elena on her breathing, and Martha holding her daughter's hand. The delivery was smooth, and at 2:37 p.m. on a sunny Thursday, Caleb Henderson Miller was born, weighing 7 pounds and crying to announce his arrival to the world. When Marcus held his son in his arms for the first time, he looked around and saw 3 generations of the family gathered: Martha, Thomas, and Elena, all crying with emotion. "Welcome to the world, Caleb. You have a huge family waiting for you." In the following months, Marcus and Elena's home became a hub for family gatherings. Martha came every day to help with the baby. Thomas stopped by at least 3 times a week. And even Chloe, who had made significant progress in therapy, was gradually being reintegrated into the family. One day, when Caleb turned 6 months old, Marcus was in the living room watching 3 generations playing together: Martha singing lullabies to her grandson, Elena laughing at the faces the baby made, and Thomas documenting everything with photos. It was in that moment he realized that this story had begun with a hidden photograph and secret tears, but was ending with a family united by truth and love. "Marcus," said Elena, interrupting his thoughts, "do you remember the photograph you saw me holding that day?" "I do. I put it in a special frame. Want to see?" She went to the shelf and took out a double picture frame. On one side was the original photo of baby Elena in Martha's arms, yellowed with age. On the other side, a recent photo of Caleb in his great-grandmother's arms. "That's beautiful, honey. It's like the story has come full circle. That's exactly how I feel, like all the pieces finally fit together." That night, after everyone had left, Marcus and Elena sat in the living room talking about how their lives had changed in recent months. "Marcus, thank you." "Thank you for what, honey?" "For supporting me through all of this, for not judging me for hiding secrets, for helping me find my parents, for embracing this crazy family we discovered. Ellie, crazy family is the best thing we've got, and I'm the one who should be thanking you." "Thanking me for what?" "For letting me be a part of all this, for giving me the chance to see how love can heal wounds that seemed impossible to mend." They hugged on the couch, watching Caleb sleep in the portable crib beside them. "Do you think one day we'll tell him this whole story?" asked Elena. "Of course we will. We'll tell him how Grandpa and Grandma loved each other so much that even separated by decades, they never forgot one another. How Mommy was adopted by a wonderful family that gave her all the love in the world, and how in the end, love always overcomes any obstacle. And about Aunt Chloe." Marcus thought for a few seconds. "We'll tell him that sometimes people do wrong things when they're hurt, but what matters is being able to forgive and move on." "I think that's the most important lesson in all of this, isn't it? Forgiveness." "It is. Your mother forgave your father for not having the courage in the past. You forgave Chloe for hiding the truth. And in the end, everyone forgave each other for all the mistakes they made." Caleb stirred in the crib, making a little noise that made them smile. "I think he agrees with us," Elena joked. "Of course he does. He's a Henderson Miller, born to spread love and unity wherever he goes." The following week, Marcus made an important decision. He drastically cut back his workload at the firm and started dedicating more time to his family. He had realized that life's most important moments don't happen in the boardroom, but in the living room with the people who truly matter. Elena, in turn, started a blog about adoption and family reunification, sharing her experience to help others going through similar situations. Martha moved into an apartment closer to their house so she could help with Caleb whenever needed. Thomas also began spending more time in the Upper West Side, seizing every chance to be near the family he had reconnected with. A year after Caleb was born, they threw a party to celebrate the baby's first birthday. The house was full. Marcus and Eleanor, Martha and Thomas, Elena's half-siblings who had come in from other cities, and even Chloe, who had become a devoted aunt after working through her issues in therapy. During the party, Marcus watched the scene and had a profound realization. This family had been built not by blood or circumstance, but by love, understanding, and the ability to forgive. "What are you thinking about?" Elena asked, approaching him. "I'm thinking that 2 years ago, if someone told me our family was going to triple in size, and it would all happen through secrets uncovered and unexpected reunions, I'd think it was a soap opera plot. And now? Now I understand that the best stories are the ones life writes for us, even when we aren't expecting them." Caleb, who was just starting to crawl, approached his parents, smiling and drooling. Marcus picked him up and lifted him, making him laugh. "Caleb, you're the happy ending to your grandparents' story and the beginning of your own." Eleanor came over and hugged her husband and son, watching the party happening around them. "Marcus, there's something I never told you." "What is it?" "That day you found me crying with the photo, I wasn't crying out of sadness." "You weren't?" "No. I was crying because somehow I always knew there was something missing in my story. And when I saw that photo, when I learned there were people in the world who loved me even before they really knew me, I cried out of relief." "Relief?" "Yes, relief at knowing I wasn't truly an orphan, that I had an origin, a story, people who were part of me long before I was born." Marcus kissed his wife's forehead, finally understanding the depth of what she had been through. And now Caleb will grow up knowing exactly where he came from, who all the people who love him are, and what his family's story is. Exactly. He'll have what I always wanted, roots. The party went on late into the night, with lots of talking, laughter, and stories being shared. When everyone had left, Marcus and Elena stayed in the living room organizing the gifts and reflecting on the day. "Ellie, do you think we'll have more kids?" "I hope so. Caleb deserves siblings to share all this love that exists in this family. And Martha and Thomas will get to be real grandparents from day one." "Yeah. They missed their chance to be present parents, but they're getting the chance to be the best grandparents in the world." Marcus put away the last dishes in the kitchen and returned to the living room, where he found Elena nursing Caleb before putting him to bed. "You know what I admire most about you, Ellie?" "What?" "The way you turned a discovery that could have destroyed our family into an opportunity to make it grow." "I think it was fate, Marcus. Maybe Caleb needed to be born into a big family, full of love and stories to tell. Maybe. Or maybe you and I needed to learn that family isn't just about the people you're born with, but about the people who choose to stay together." Elena smiled, watching her son drift off to sleep in her arms. "Either way, now we know no matter what secrets or surprises life has in store for us, we'll face it all together, like we always have. Always, love, like a real family." Marcus turned off the lights in the living room, but left a small lamp glowing near Caleb's crib. It was a soft light that symbolized the continuity of life, hope for the future, and the certainty that no matter how many storms come, love always finds a way to prevail. The end. And you? What did you think of this story of reunions and forgiveness? Can you imagine what it must be like to discover a whole family you didn't know existed? Leave in the comments your opinion on the choices Elena made and whether you think Marcus reacted the right way. Your input matters a lot to us. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other emotional stories like this one.